Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, my review for The Suicide Squad, written and directed by Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn. He jumped ship after a whole ruckus that went on, and DC got him, which is good for DC fans, which I am. So Suicide Squad. I've been quite looking forward to this one, to be honest, ever since James Gunn got his hands on it. Although I gotta say, there are certain characters that I was hoping he would get in there, but never did. But, whatever. We'll see what happens in the future. But, yeah, it's kind of a soft reboot of the previous Suicide Squad, but not really. You can kind of take it as a sequel. It follows Harley Quinn once again, and Rick Flag, Boomerang. They all get together as part of this new Suicide Squad. They're sent on a mission. You know the score if you've seen the previous film. The question is, does it do it any better? And I think the answer is, of course, yes. Now, there's been quite a lot of reviews out on this. There's been a lot of mention of the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, which I hate to even bring up, to be honest, because I don't pay any attention really to Rotten Tomatoes with regards to my opinion, but it's certainly created a bit of a fervour, a lot of hype around this film. Now, I personally don't think this film lives up to that hype. I don't think it's quite, one of the top 3 or even top 5 comic book movies ever made. I think that's absolute nonsense. It's not even going to crack my top 10, to be honest. But it is highly enjoyable. There's a few negatives. One, I would say that I don't think, and I'm sure a lot of people will lambast me for this because I know Birds of Prey was quite divisive, but I feel like Cathy Yan really got Harley Quinn. I think, whatever your thoughts on Birds of Prey, I thought they nailed Harley Quinn in that. I personally love that film. And I still feel like whenever Harley Quinn is put into the hands of a male director, it doesn't, I don't know, there's something that don't quite click. A lot of the gags with her, for me, don't quite work, or they're just I'm a bit bored by them, I guess. There's a whole section when Harley Quinn kind of falls in with this general of the Corto Maltese, and the president, I should say, and it just goes off into this weird little. I understand it. I understand that's that would be a very Harley Quinn-esque thing to do, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't hit me in the way that I think it should, which is humour. I think it reveals a fair bit about her character and, the kind of person she is and the change that she's going through and the new kind of person she's trying to be. But even so, I think the humour side of it, which I think Gunn is definitely going for, doesn't really come across to me. I didn't really find myself laughing at those moments. There is a character in this film that I absolutely love and really wanted to see a lot more of, and unfortunately he's taken out pretty early on. It's a Suicide Squad. We know quite a few of them are going to die. James Gunn has already made it quite public that Warner Brothers said, anyone you want to take out, you can take out. But I gotta say, there's one particular character that, well, I'll say it. I was pissed off, to be honest, that they took him out. I wanted to see more of him. I thought he should at least get through most of the film, and he didn't. He got taken out in the opening scene, and it took a bit to get me back on board, to be honest. After that, so definitely anyone can have their head on the chopping block, so to speak. I just wish that certainly one character didn't quite get there so soon. Beyond that, though, it is a good rollicking roller coaster ride of fun and typical kind of James Gunn moments. Real slapstick kind of humour at times, a lot of heart in places, a lot of quirky, wacky characters. I think is it David Dashmakian? I think I've got. Can't remember. I don't think his first. I don't think I got his first name right. But the Dashmakian guy who seems to be in all the comic book movies these days, including The Dark Knight, my favourite film. Yeah, he plays Polka Dot Man, one of the more obscure kind of. Well, all of these characters are pretty obscure, to be honest, which is why they're so ripe for a Suicide Squad. You couldn't really put someone like Joker in this group and then kill him, because people would be really pissed. But yeah, people like Polka Dot Man and half of these other guys that I can't even remember what their names are. As a comic book fan, a lot of these people I've never seen before, so that they're quite obscure. Polka Dot Man is one that I'm aware of, that I have seen in comic books. I think Dashmakian does a really good job with this guy. There's quite a humorous kind of gag that runs throughout the film where he sees his mum everywhere, and other characters kind of, we see from his perspective. I've got his mum's kind of face just stuck on them, which creates for some rather bizarre moments and really great comedic moments throughout. The kaiju thing that's in it, the big Starro, which again, it's not a spoiler if you've even remotely seen anything about this film, whether it's in trailers and whatnot. James Gunn released tons of artwork for this thing on social media and whatnot. So yeah, when we get to Starro, that again, as I say, creates a lot of humour. There's moments when, let's just say that the way that this thing spreads is quite humorous, and the way that it kind of latches onto people. Again, like I say, it made me laugh out loud. There's a particular moment when there's just loads of people, swathes of people just getting taken over by this thing, and just the noise of these little starfish things slapping on their faces. It's just humorous. I made a very audible laugh out loud kind of chuckle in the cinema. I did feel like at that point I was the only one laughing, which is always a little bit awkward, but there you go. No, I like the characters. I like this cast, this group of characters that Gunn has cobbled together. Again, like I say, really obscure people. I think Idris Elba does a really good job of essentially taking over the role of Deadshot. It's not Deadshot, it's Bloodsport, but let's face it, it's Deadshot. This is a guy who can use anything as a weapon and always hits his target. He's not to bring race into it, he's a black guy taking over from Will Smith. He's got a daughter that Viola Davis's character, Amanda Waller, uses against him in order to get him to do the mission. So yeah, it's basically the same character from the previous movie. It's just a different actor with a different name. It's just, yeah, they could have literally brought back Will Smith as Deadshot and you wouldn't notice. So in many ways that's a shame that they didn't do that. But I do like Idris Elba. I do think he suits the role and he does a really good job with it. Again, brings the heart, but also some comedic chops as and when it's needed. There's a really funny moment in the film actually when John Cena's character is being recruited, the Peacemaker, and he's basically the same character as Bloodsport. He's got all the same skills. He just Bloodsport kind of calls out, but it does allow for a really funny moment, I think. Daniela Melchior as Ratcatcher 2 is, I would say, the heart of the film. I think she's the one who kind of brings the team together. She's got probably a bit more character to her. She's fleshed out a bit more. I think Gunn does a good job of giving insights into all of these guys, but I think she's the one who brings the most heart and is the member of the team that certain other members feel more protective of. She's the one who kind of gels them together, makes them kind of realise that they can be something of a family and do something better with their lives in some respect. There's quite a few disgusting moments in the film as well. Some of that being related to Ratcatcher as it happens. Obviously her power is, well, she has the ability to control rats and get them to do what she wants, which ultimately leads to some icky moments, shall we say. On the whole, the action sequences are handled pretty well, but there were a few, I've got to say, where I felt like they were masking a fair bit, using kind of shaky cam and fast edits, and I just kind of wanted them to just not do that, just go on a wide a bit more, slow the cutting down just so I could actually see what was happening. That's not all the time. Like, there are a few action sequences. There's one fight scene between two guys that maybe it's because of the skill of the actors. They don't need to mask as much. Maybe they're able to pull back and not rely on the film techniques, the cutting and all that to make it seem action-packed. I don't know. But certainly I did notice that some action sequences were really well filmed, really nicely edited, and there were some where I was just a bit like, whoa, come on, slow down a bit, let me see what's going on. It just took me out of the moment in certain cases. As Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy in the character of Groot, we get a very similar kind of character here in the shape of King Shark, who is obviously not human. He looks very oddball. He sticks out like a sore thumb, and he doesn't say a right lot. He's not quite on the level of Groot. You know, he's not just got the 3 words that he uses throughout, but he is pretty monosyllabic. He's often says things that spark laughter, but also a bit of feeling there as well. I would say he adds a bit of heart, and a lot of that again comes out of Ratcatcher 2 and how she responds to him and how she kind of sees him and helps him to see himself. So yeah, Sylvester Stallone doing nice work on the voice for that character. I would say sometimes the CGI on King Shark looks a little bit too cartoony. Sometimes the skin tones on the shark look a bit off, but for the most part, no, I think it's the character pulls you in, and I think Gunn does a really good job in the writing of it, and you know, Stallone with the performance, that you can kind of forgive a few of the momentary lapses in CGI. Ultimately, this film ends up being pretty much what I was anticipating, what I was expecting. You know, if you tick a bunch of boxes that you would expect from a James Gunn film, they all get ticked here. So I don't think it reinvents the wheel. I don't think it's, you know, the best thing ever. I think, you know, you temper your expectations when you go in based on what the critical response has been so far. And I think you'll have a really fun time. I know I did. I would give it a 4 out of 5. But as I say, I just, yeah, it's something that I'm going to be able to throw on multiple times, have lots of rewatches, really enjoy it, have a bit of heart to it. But again, it's not reinventing the wheel. So yeah, 4 out of 5 from me. But what about you? Have you seen The Suicide Squad? How do you think it compares to the theatrical cut of David Ayer's film? Let's face it, it's not David Ayer's film. Hashtag release the Ayer cut. But yeah, how do you think the two compare? Which one do you prefer most? And do you prefer to see James Gunn sitting in the Marvel wheelhouse or the DC camp? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, crack in.